Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're on day 3 of Mastering Your Metabolism. Everybody join me again. I'm super happy to see you here, especially after we had that day of toxins yesterday. That's a big one. So I'm glad that you're with us. Just as a reminder, Lori, our health coach, is on the chat. So if you have any questions, hit her up. There's also a place there that you can submit any questions that you have for Friday's Q&A. So super excited. Let me share my screen with you and we will jump into day 3. Make sure I do this right. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So today we're talking about the big S's: sleep, stress, and social support. But just like we did yesterday, first, does anybody have anything that you'd like to share? What challenge did you accept from yesterday as far as implementing decreasing toxins in your life, looking at micro deficiencies, some of these common stumbling blocks and hurdles that we see? Did anybody have anything that you want to share that you've implemented? It can either be through audio, I'm happy to let you chime in, or it can just be throwing something on the chat. Or if you have anything that you'd like to mention from the first day, we love to celebrate wins with you. So if there's something that you've implemented from the first day, let me know too, because we want to celebrate it and know what you're doing. I do see a couple right already on the chat. Getting outside. Fantastic. I had a couple people reach out to me yesterday, just right after the Zoom call was done. They're like, I'm going outside right now. So that's awesome. Looks like we're putting leftovers in glass. Phenomenal. Fasting is gone into place. Excellent, Melissa. That's great. And Sunny's using a 1/2-gallon mason jar for greens instead of plastic. These are all great. These are phenomenal. I'm glad you guys are doing this. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. Everything, just as a reminder, we're really trying to stoke that metabolic fire and get things moving. So good job. Keep up the great work. And if there's other questions, please feel free to let us know and we're happy to share. Okay, we're going to dive right in though. I'll keep you on time. So today we're to the first big S we're going to talk about is sleep. And here's a question that I would love to have you answer on the chat. Is it harder for you to function without food or without sleep? Even if it's like a sleep deprivation where you don't feel like you got enough sleep. Which one seems like it takes a harder toll on the body? Sleep. Kim said food. Wow, harder to function without. Most people say sleep. Yeah, I would say that sleep definitely. It's not any surprise, I don't think, that sleep deprivation hits us hard. Sleep is hard to miss. In fact, it's so hard to miss, and it has such a negative impact on our life and our health that the Guinness Book of World Records stopped recognizing an attempt to go the longest without sleeping. That's no longer a record that they see. And even if you remember a couple years back, we had that guy that jumped out of a hot air balloon that floated into space as the highest skydive. I mean, they consider that to be less detrimental to your health than going without sleep, which says a lot for sleep, right? It's important to have, and without it, everything starts to go downhill. And we'll talk a little bit about why. One thing that I do want to mention is this great resource here that's listed. This is a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matt Walker. He's one of the leading figures on sleep study and what it means for us. It's a really good resource, and it's a great read. It's really engaging, really enjoyable. One of the things that I thought was interesting in here is that he talks about how, from an evolutionary standpoint, sleep makes no sense. Like, there's no reason that we should be sleeping, right? We can't hunt, we can't gather, we can't protect ourselves. Why in the world would we need to sleep? And yet every known animal in some form or another has to sleep. And so it's important. And one of the theories that's out there that I thought is kind of fascinating to think about is, some people say the theory is that the life-sustaining state of being is sleep, and wakefulness is not. And I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to get injured, if you're going to have stress in your life, if you're going to have all of these negative things that happen to you, typically they're going to happen, and we do them to our bodies when we're awake. And then our body takes advantage of the time that we have to sleep to start to repair, rest, heal, do everything that we need to. There is a fine balance there, and we'll talk a little bit about that as far as how much sleep you need, how much is too much, why are there so many variables that go into that? So that's something
Judy told me my mute time, so just a minute.
That is important to talk about as well. But let's talk a little bit about the benefits.
Hey, Brendan, sorry to interrupt. Christy, can you mute your phone as I can't hear Brandon.
Got it.
Oh, there. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for telling me. Yeah, sorry about that. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of sleep and why it's so important. So as you can see here, this is a great list. Some of the things that it does for us. We're going to increase our cellular and gut repair. And as we talked about earlier on that day one, remember, we're stopping to eat 3 hours before bed. We're going to support that gut repair. We see our energy go up, and which is why we've all said that, hey, I notice that I don't function as well without sleep, because that's when we start to get an increase in energy. Sleep regulates our appetite. Ghrelin is one of those hormones that really regulates and increases appetite. And as we sleep, we see a decrease in ghrelin. So we're just not as hungry. And if you're anything like me, if I'm tired, I'm always looking for something to eat, because it's probably my body saying, hey, you need energy, reach for something that you know will give you energy, even though what I really just need is sleep. So we have appetite regulation. This is when we start to really affect our hormones. A lot of cholesterol is made in the night, and that's our building block of hormones. Our HPA axis that regulates how hormones are made, that's all affected by sleep. We have anti-inflammation benefits. We definitely see improved cognitive function when we're completely rested. And as you can see right here with this study, there is a connection between sleep deprivation and obesity for sure. And it's probably because of all of these things that we just listed. And when we really start to look at it, it's because we're not able to stoke that fire as well. We're not able to get that metabolic rate increased. We can't master our metabolism without sleep. So not only does cognitive function decrease, longevity goes down. And one thing that I would notice here from the benefits of sleep is there seems to be like a big horseshoe. It's a U-shaped. We see up here is negative. As we dive into under 9 hours of sleep down to 7, that 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for adults is typically recommended. And then if you get anything less than 7, we see that the negative implications go right back up. And there's a lot of debate as to why that is. Like, why do we see as many negative effects from oversleeping as we do undersleeping? And it plays into so many different things. A lot of times it's like, if we didn't get good quality sleep, we try to stay in bed, and we see that we're not really getting meaningful sleep. There could be underlying pathologies going on where we're not perfusing. Maybe we have some of those micronutrient or toxins that are affecting our body, the micronutrient deficiencies. And more issues that are or mental health type stuff that's forcing us to sleep longer. And so all of a sudden we enter into this world of comorbidities that there's a reason behind oversleeping that's decreasing that longevity. So these are all the benefits of sleep. Now, what I would really like to know is what prevents you from sleeping? What's the number one thing in your life right now that's like the biggest obstacle from getting a good night's sleep? And if you want to just throw it into that chat, we can bring it up. And also, if you want to let me know. Yeah, kids. Yeah, I'm with you there. Too much to do. Maybe you have that brain that you just can't turn off, right? You just keep thinking about it. Teenagers are out at all hours of the night. They don't care about sleep. And so we have to stay up for them as parents, right? We want to be responsible. Lots of racing thoughts. How do we shut that brain off at night and let it rest? Too much to do. Yeah, these are things that we all face, right? And a lot of times when we think about a lot of these, it's they're not things that we can get rid of, right? We can't get rid of our kids to make us sleep better. We're always going to have things to do. We love our brains. We want to keep our brains. Hormones definitely affect sleep. Absolutely. So what I'd like to know is, even in the midst of all of these things, what are the things that you have done or that you've seen to be of benefit in your own life that help your sleep hygiene? Does anybody have like a go-to sleep routine that you wouldn't mind sharing? And if it's too much to type, let me know, and we'll mute you and let you talk to us and see what people are doing out there. I'm just scrolling through and seeing what people say. I'm going to start talking. Please feel free to keep typing and read for an hour before bed. Yeah. Massage bed, turn it on for 10 minutes every night. Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Brandon, can I share something?
Please do. Absolutely.
I found with me, with racing thoughts and a lot of things going on in my brain, sometimes it helps for me just to get them out of my brain and onto a piece of paper. So I call it a brain dump. I just get a piece of paper and I just write the things that are just weighing on my mind. And then maybe even put a little plan together what I'm going to do about that tomorrow. So once you get it out, get it on paper, you kind of have it processed in your head, it releases you to be able to just relax then and get to sleep. Yeah,
I completely agree. Yeah, thank you. Because half the time that's what we're worried about, right? I'm going to forget this stuff come morning. And then what am I going to do? I got a to-do list and it's all mapped out in my brain, and being able to put it somewhere and tell your brain, hey, it's not forgotten. It's here. We can look at it and revisit it in the morning. That's phenomenal. Yes. Thank you, Lori. That's awesome. Turn off all electronics at least an hour before bed. Yeah. Go outside if the weather is good. Empty the negative energy into the night. Love it. That's great. And you've just started implementing that. That's amazing. That's really good. We'll talk about some of those things that can help, probably from a stress standpoint too. Roger, it's good to see you, man. Exercise during the day, sleep faster. Yeah. Avoid chocolate, avoid sugar before bed. Yeah. All of those things. That's great. Keep them coming. We'll at the very end of this, Lori's going to show you how you can download the chat and all of that so that you can keep these ideas. We're going to keep moving. Some of the things that we've seen here that are beneficial to sleep: the regularity and routine. And we've talked about this from like a microbiome standpoint, from an eating standpoint, to keep that symbiotic relationship alive. Just like the microbiome, like regularity and routine, so does your body, right? So if we have a normal bedtime, we have a routine that we go, we're teaching our body to wind down. We're teaching it that it's okay to sleep. So dim the lights in the evening. We want to mimic what's going on outside, not keep the bright lights all the way up until bedtime. No blue light, that's the electronics. No blue light 30 to 60 minutes before bed. We do see that cooling your bedroom down helps you sleep better. White noise can help drown out any other distractions. We really should keep our bedrooms available for sleep only. So no electronics in the bedroom. We just are teaching our body that it's used for other things, like watching TV, if that's the case. And then remember, we're avoiding eating before bed. These are all great things that we can do to help sleep. And as well as, I love the brain dump idea. That's a great one. That's a great one to implement. So just remember, sleep is a big piece when we start talking about mastering your metabolism, because that's what's going to help fuel that fire and stoke it to make it burn brighter through the day, so that as we're able to implement all these other things and eat right and stress less, we start to see all of our dividends pay off. So that's we're going to jump into stress a little bit. Sorry, these are going to be quick so I can keep you on time. So stress, what's the biggest source of stress in your life? I'm willing to bet that some of these overlap with what keeps you up at night. If you wouldn't mind sharing, what's your biggest stressors in the chat? And I'll keep talking here for a minute and we'll revisit those. There is a really big connection to obesity, to lowered metabolism and stress in the literature. And what we see is that this is really because just think about everything we talked about yesterday, where we're putting our body into that fight or flight, or that hide and survive type mentality, where we just got to bunker down. There's so many things going on that our body's going to say, hey, it's dog eat dog world out there. I got to look after myself. And the way I'm going to survive is make it so that I can survive on nothing. So we drop our basal metabolic rate. We'd really start to look at just those core functions that keep us alive. And stress really starts to affect metabolism and lowers that down. Let me jump on the chat and see what people are saying are the biggest. Yeah, great comment from Roger. Sorry, I'm jumping back to sleep. Turning off screens is really hard, and using something like blue light filters, yellow light is phenomenal. In fact, a lot of prescription glasses now just filter blue light naturally. So if you do wear prescription glasses, talk to your doctor about that, or there's places online that you can get them, and you can simply get blue light, yellow light filtering glasses. So that's great. Work is a great, it's a lack of sleep. Yeah, that one definitely carries over for sure it's like a downward spiral, right? We can't sleep, so now we're stressed, and now we're more stressed, so we can't sleep. And here we go. So, anybody eat when you're stressed? I know I do. It's kind of like not being well rested. We also eat more, which then affects weight as well. We also see with stress, we essentially have a willpower battery that you have throughout the day, that you have so much cares that you can give to the world. And stress is just a constant hammer, and it constant chisels at that energy. So when we're always constantly worrying, pretty soon willpower's gone. We're going to reach for whatever we need to. We have more mindless overeating from research. That's what this stress and obesity talks about. We're going to see less sleep, more inflammation, less cellular function. We're really going into that hide and survive. Like, I just can't even think about that stuff anymore. So I mentioned this book, and we're going to talk about it on this next page. Breath is an amazing book by James Nestor, really diving into the science of breathing and what that does for us to help manage stress. And I would love to know, what do you guys do to manage stress? And we'll talk about some of the things that help. Breathing, we'll talk about first and foremost. And in fact, well, let's mention nature, just because somebody mentioned that they go outside and they just let all of their negative energy into nature, which is amazing. And one of the great things about nature, and that reminds me of something that I heard. We went to a recent medical conference where a doctor presented, and he talked about, he was dealing with esophageal cancer that was now in remission, and kind of his journey. And he said, one of the things I knew that I needed to do was keep my heart rate variability low, to know that my body is managing stress, which is a way that you can monitor your stress, is heart rate variability. But he said, everything that I was trying wouldn't work. Like, even though I could normally breathe and meditate and do all of things to drive my heart rate down, none of it worked until I went outside and I just got inside the trees, and immediately I had this calming effect. So being outside is amazing. And part of that is a social cue of just being able to see the big picture. A lot of times when we're focused, we're just hyper vigilant on something, whether it's an issue like, hey, my kids are gone, or work is hard. There's so many projects to do. I have my to-do list never ends. And we usually reach for a distraction, like our phones, like a screen of some type. So our brain says, okay, we're going to focus on this one issue. Now we're going to focus on the screen. It doesn't perceive the difference. And so even though it feels like a distraction, it doesn't kick us out of that stress response. So going outside, or even through a window, looking at the horizon, is a great visual stimulation to tell your brain, hey, remember, there's a big picture out here. We don't have to worry about this bear that's going to jump out and eat us if we have time to look at the horizon. So it triggers that parasympathetic system. It calms down the nerves. So let's talk about breathing for a minute, which goes into meditation and all of that kind of stuff. The breathing that seems to help address stress the most, and if there's one that works for you more than others, phenomenal. But there's more like an oxygen deprivation, where we're training your body to increase its carbon dioxide threshold. So essentially breath holding. Wim Hof is a great example of this. You can also do one where you're just focusing on more like a more prolonged exhale. So you're breathing in for 4, you hold for 7, you breathe out for 8. Or Box breathing does the same thing, where that inhale is just a short time of everything that you're doing, or even just slowing down your breathing rate to take bigger breaths. About 6 breaths a minute is the recommended. So why does that help? And I want you to think about it like exercise. I want you to think about it like fasting. Like, these are ways that we can stress the body in a good way, that we're essentially teaching the body, hey, even though I can't eliminate stress, I can't get rid of my kids, I can't stop working, I'm always going to have things to do. There's ways that we can overcome stress by just helping our body manage it better. And the reason I like this is there's a threefold benefit to this type of breathing. Is one, it puts you in the moment. It's really hard to focus on anything else and let your mind wander when you're holding your breath, because you're just watching that clock. When can I take my next breath? For me, I'm more focused in the moment, even though it's a little bit more of a stressful focus than when I'm just trying to focus on my breathing. The other one is our body knows how to oxygenate tissue based on what tissues are putting off the most CO2. So by holding our breath, we're allowing our body to breathe longer. We're letting more tissue put off CO2 to then, when we finally take that rescue breath, we get to perfuse deeper. And oxygen is so beneficial to cellular health. We're going to increase our metabolism, increase the mitochondrial function. And the third thing I think is really interesting, and this is why we've seen this type of breathing really pay off for like depression and anxiety and things like that are stressful mentally, is they did some research on, and you'll read about this in Breath if you'd like to check out that book. There's some research where people do not have a functioning amygdala, and without amygdala, you do not have a fear response. So spiders, snakes, guns, robbers, strangers, tornadoes, nothing affects you. You can't elicit a response. Everything's normal. Until they put a mask on these people that had the normal 21% oxygen, and all they did was increase the amount of CO2 coming into the mask. Instant panic. I can't breathe. I need more air. Don't ever put that mask on me again. And it was a breakthrough for research, because we realized that there was another pathway that we could stimulate fear and we could stimulate that stress response, and it was through our breathing. So we induce a little bit of that where you're in control. You can always take that rescue breath while you're holding your breath. And we're training your body to be okay, to say, hey, I recognize this scenario. There's a lot of stress going on, and I can be okay despite what's going on. So exercise is an amazing one as well. It's probably my go-to, where it just is more meditative for me to feel like I'm doing my body good and get to do. And we'll talk about exercise in more detail tomorrow, so I won't dwell on it, but that is an amazing one. And I put self-care in here because there's so many ways that you could. This is where those stress responses from you and what you do to manage it are really important. Meditation and grounding shoes, hike. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. There we go. Trying to look at my long baths. Yeah, baths. Sometimes people just like, if you're very extroverted, sometimes getting together with other people is more of self-care than just being by yourself. And so there's just so many ways that we can overcome stress, and it's just important to take time to do it. And that's the hard part, right? Because we're already worried about sleep because we have so many things to do. So, and then social support, just making sure that you have somebody in your corner. You all deserve a cheerleader. And so let's talk a little bit about social support. And the questions that I'd like you to answer for yourself is, think about the people that you spend your most time with. Maybe it's a significant other or a spouse, or maybe you have close friends that you spend a lot of time with. Do you feel like you can be yourself around these people? And what if you're trying to change and we want to celebrate these wins along the way? Are these people going to celebrate with you, or are they going to be like, hey, why are you changing stuff? Especially when you think about that the importance of the purpose that we talked about yesterday, and defining your purpose of why you're even here. Why do you want to master your metabolism? What does that future self look like? Are these people that are going to encourage you and support where you're going? Are they going to be there for you during hardships? Like, these are the people that we want to surround ourselves with. And having a strong social support system plays heavily into metabolism and weight loss. And in fact, this was a really interesting study because it is more qualitative, where we're just looking at feedback from people and what they have to say. And a lot of people said that they gathered the most support from old friends that have been around them for a long time, so that they just know them, or the ones that they feel like they can open up to the most. They also feel the most support from people who are going through the same challenges as they are. So they loved like the people at the personal trainer or at the gym or in a group that they joined to lose weight together, because they said, these are the people that I can connect with and that I know their goals align with mine. Interestingly enough, primary care providers did not fare well in the study, and it was a small sample size, but it's interesting to see that most people, at least in the study, had a negative thought process when they thought about, will my doctor be there to support me? And because they said, usually it's just, hey, you need to lose weight, do the things you need to do. And hopefully, as we've painted the picture of these last couple of days, that's hard to do. I mean, there's a lot that plays into this than just, hey, eat less. So I promise not all doctors are like that, right? We can find good ones that will help support us along our way. Also, a great resource that I want to mention when we talk about social support is, hopefully one of your biggest cheerleaders is either your significant other or a spouse or somebody that's just like that person for you, to be in your corner when you're in the center ring fighting. Dr. Scott and Amy Norda that I work with wrote a great book. It's called Power Couple Habits, that really walks you through how do we create a relationship based on all of these like-minded things, so that we can be that support person for each other. How do we build those habits? So I would encourage you to check that out if that's something that you're looking for in your life. So the other really cool thing that I like about social support is there's an ongoing study. It's called the Harvard Adult Study, or, something along those lines. And they're into their second generation now. It's a study that's been going on for 80 years. And really they're trying to define what makes people happy, really, like what is it that we're striving for in life? More than anything else that they've been able to identify through hardships and, everything that life has to bring, relationships have played a bigger role in reported joy in this study than anything else, which is pretty amazing. And in fact, the research, the project manager of this said, hey, taking care of your body is important, but tending to your relationships is self-care too. And I think that is really the revelation here. So just remember that relationships are right up there, just as important as physical health, as exercise, as sleep and stress. And we can't forget that, because that's what makes life meaningful. So, challenge time. Trying to keep you on time. I did not think we were going to make it. So let's talk about what do we do from here? How do we fix this stuff? And hopefully, as we've talked through some of these things, how can we improve our sleep? How can we improve our stress? What do we look for a social support? Where can we turn? So some questions that I'd like you to ask, and just pick one. Just pick one small thing that we've done. Or if you're like, nah, there's some things that really need some change in my life, and I'm ready to make those changes, then we can do that. But how can you improve your sleep routine? Maybe it's shutting off that brain. That seemed like a pretty big one in the chat. So it's something that we can do with the brain dump. Sorry, I had a brain fog there. Try the brain dump. See if that really helps you go to sleep. There are some wonderful things that you can look at and explore as far as supplementation goes too, with GABA or L-theanine that help calm the brain down as well. Are there any stressors in your life that you can eliminate? Maybe not. But then if we can't get rid of the stress, what tools can we use to better deal with stress? Maybe we try breathing and doing more of the oxygen deprivation breathing. One thing that's really important too, and that you can use, and I use it all the time throughout the day, is something called an audible sigh, where you do 2 inhales and 1 exhale. You'll probably see your dogs do it. We've probably all done it after a solid cry, where your body is like, hey, I need to relax. And animals do it before they go to sleep. So try that throughout the day, because that's a great parasympathetic trigger that you can use to just try to pull your body out of that stress response. And as we use these tools, we're essentially trying to teach our body, hey, I recognize this for a stressful environment, but I also remember that I don't have to overreact. I wrote in here, how can you change traditions for the better? A lot of times we associate positive feelings with holidays and with bad food. So sometimes it takes you being an act of change to change traditions and change a trajectory so that people look forward to doing things a little bit different, a little bit healthier. And the other thing is, if you don't feel like you have that support system right now, I encourage you to find your tribe. Discover a support group, and that can be online. That could be at a local community or at a health club, or join our cohort that's starting up in April. All of these people will be like-minded that are looking to master their metabolism and improve all of these things that we've talked about so far: nutrition, sleep, stress, reducing toxin exposure, tomorrow exercise, all of these things. And it can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm 1 minute over. So I hope that that's been meaningful for you. I know I've taken away some things too. I'm going to try the brain dump before I go to sleep as well. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to join with me today to see what we can do to master our metabolism together. I am going to leave this chat open for a few more minutes, and I'm also going to turn some time over to Lori so she can show you how to download this chat. And then if you have any follow-up questions for her, it'll be open for just a little bit.